Well, the head of the United Nations is hopeful that he can get grains stored for export in Ukraine released to countries in desperate need of them. Secretary General Antonio Guterres warning in a ministerial meeting for the UN that there's still a long way to go, but that discussions are continuing. Food experts are warning that Russia's war in Ukraine has put a critical pinch in global food supplies. Well, not helping is a recent U-turn by India, which had promised to export more wheat.
It's the start of the summer, and India is experiencing heat waves. This year, record temperatures come amid soaring inflation and rising prices. And the hot weather is already hurting farmers.
Because of the heat wave, our crops have suffered. Due to the sudden rise in temperature, the water table has dropped. The great heat has decimated our crop yield by half.
That is why New Delhi has banned wheat exports. It wants to put India's own food security first, amid frequent supply chain disruptions and rising food prices. But the government has stopped short of an outright ban. India plans to honor shipment agreements inked before the ban. And they will continue to export to food deficit countries, including Egypt and Bangladesh. But that doesn't supply much relief for major wheat importers. On Monday, wheat prices soared to a record high following the Indian government's announcement.
Now put yourself in a position where, in a low-income country or lower middle-income country, where you were, let's say, spending 50% of your income or more on food, and suddenly your food got more expensive. This is what we are seeing in many parts of the world as we speak.
And while neighboring countries like Bangladesh and Sri Lanka can continue to count on India for now, the question for their governments and others across the world is how they can feed their populations if food prices continue to rise.
Nehal Jory is our correspondent in Delhi. Nehal, good to see you. Take us behind this U-turn. India was supposed to make its debut as a major wheat exporter. What happened?
Well, India had been on an upward trend when it comes to wheat exports. For instance, last year, they were able to export 3 times the amount that they did the last year. So there was a lot of confidence around that, and the projections were that this year it would be even larger exports. And so India was looking to expand its market. But that didn't quite happen because of India's immense heat wave this year. So March this year was one of the hottest, and this was a sudden spike in temperature, not a gradual increase. So it destroyed a lot of crops across India, especially in states which are major wheat producers. And so some of the farmers we've spoken to have lost half of their yield. And what's also happened as a result of that is that farmers are selling their wheat to private traders who've been able to offer a better price than the government. And so at the beginning of May, the government realized that they had 30% less than what they expected by this time.
So under this ban, where does all that wheat go now? Does it stay in the domestic market?
It does. Some of it goes as well to neighboring countries like Bangladesh and Sri Lanka, which India has been supplying for years and will continue to honor that because these contracts had already been signed. Domestically, wheat is a staple food, so most households you eat it and cook it every day, and most of the production is going there. Apart from that, India also has famine reserves, which it keeps for disasters. And a lot of these famine reserves had run dry because grains were used and distributed as COVID relief packages. And so that is a deficit that India needs to refill as well.
Nehal, to what extent is Delhi likely to respond to outside pressure about this decision?
It seems unlikely. We have to remember that in 2005, India saw a wheat crisis, and it happened because India miscalculated and exported too much wheat, and then they had to spend the next several years importing wheat from other countries. And so there's a sensitivity around this issue. Both people and governments don't want to make that mistake again. Many of the experts we've spoken to who are agricultural policy researchers, they actually agree with the ban because they say it is important to protect India's internal food security. And there is a growing sense that there is no need for India to look good on the global front when it might come back to bite them the next year.
All right, Nehal Jory in Delhi, thank you very much.